everybody, and welcome back to Talk Wordy, my hub for all of the words that I read, write, or otherwise want to yap about. Today, I have a very special author guest on the pod. She is the Amazon best-selling author of the Austin Heat series, which is inspired by secret liaisons of Old West villains. That's so cool. I can never get over that. Please welcome Amari Nylix, a.k.a. Tara Delaney.
Hi, thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. Also, like, Texas Pride, any chance I have to, like, chat with a fellow Texan author, I'm going to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I'm so excited you're here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I usually do with my guests on the pod to, like, warm up a little bit is I ask them what we are reading, watching, and listening to. But since we are a little more crunched on time, I'm curious, what is your latest hyperfixation? What is something that you've been, like, really engrossed in, whether it's TV, movie, media, book, anything that you've just been really in tune with?
So I definitely have to say The Hunting Wives
Yes.
by May Cobb. So when that got made into Netflix, I had the pleasure of meeting May a couple years ago. She's an extraordinary person. And then when that just boomed, I was just so happy for her. And it's so campy. And
Yes.
you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that they're making fun of themselves during the show.
Yeah.
And I'm dressing up as Margot Banks tonight.
Yeah.
So she's like not a romance character, but she's getting a lot of
Yeah.
romance in that show, right? In
Yeah.
all kinds of ways. So that's what I've been kind of into. Yeah.
Yeah. I just started it, actually. I'm only one episode in, but I love Brittany Snow.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because, you know, around my age, she was big in Pitch Perfect, and ever since then, I've just been like goo goo gaga for her. She's so gorgeous and talented, and girl's been through the ringer too.
I know. I was just going to say she has a really unique, not unique, it's probably really ubiquitous in some ways, story of her mental health and what she started to feel the pressure and then she kind of stepped back from it. So it's so cool to see her just launch, you know, not just with The Hunting Wives, other shows and stuff. I agree. Yeah.
Do we know if it got renewed for a season 2?
I hear
Word on the street.
They're leaking it that yes, there is going to be a season 2. I'm glad I got to say that on here. Yes, Hunting Wives season 2.
Awesome. Okay, so as I mentioned in the intro, you're the author of the Austin Heat series, and book 6 is on the way.
Yes.
What would you say is the secret to a successful long series?
Well, for me, it was just to create intriguing characters and also to set it in a city that I love, Austin. And because that allows me to do so much with those characters. So I always tell people, think a spicy version of Virgin River meets like Friday Night Lights, a little bit of Yellowstone toothpick chewing, and you get the vibe, right? So I didn't really intend it to be 6 books, and now it possibly is going to be 8.
Wow.
Because when I created these characters, I realized I wrote book 2 first.
Oh, really?
And then I went back and created book 1 because I realized that the reader had to know more of their backstory and be part of what happens in their journey. And then what happened, like with book 5, there's a different guy on the cover because he's the wide receiver. And readers wanted to hear his story. So how it's evolving is really some reader, feedback.
Yeah.
And so book 6 will be the first one to have a woman. And it's a woman that has 2 children. It's his older sister. And so it still has football in it because you still are going along with all the characters.
Yeah.
And that's what people at first are like, okay, we're keeping these characters going. And I said, yeah, think Virgin River. Think you're going to still see them. You're still going to see, maybe 4 chapters by Jake, even though it's about his sister, Melissa, but to tell her story from his perspective.
Yeah. That's awesome. Okay, I'm so glad that you said it too, the Virgin River meets Friday Night Lights, because first of all, hot. So hot. But I'm curious because I love to try and find new ways for people to like describe the essence of their book. So if you had to describe your books as like cocktails or drinks, what would you say that they would be?
I'm going to have to go with ranch water. Anything tequila, right? Like It always works, tequila. But we have a special Austin Heat drink where it's ranch water with a little orange liqueur and a hint of jalapeno syrup, and that a spicy ranch water. That's what I
Ooh,
thank you for
yum.
making me think about that.
Yes. No, so I have a friend that's promoting one of her books, and she's an author for Cosmopolitan, and so they were talking like, oh, my first book would be like red wine, and my other book would be like an espresso martini. I'm like, what a fun way to describe a book, because like you have something that like resonates with a different sensory element.
Yes.
And so I was like, okay, this is super immersive, especially when I think of like Yellowstone and Old West. They're out at a bar having a drink. I'm like, I wonder.
And I do
would
highlight
be.
Texas brands in the book.
Yes.
So there's a whiskey brand that's highlighted, 512 tequila, Lola tequila, because when I did my book launch party, they supplied the tequila 512,
Oh, that's
and
so
I was like, so I
awesome.
just wrote them into it, and some of the whiskey brands and stuff, I made them more local,
Yeah.
so that when people read the book, they don't really know the series, they can actually go to all those places in Austin.
Yes.
There's only one place that we only make up the name of a place if something negative happens, because I don't want the Driscoll Hotel, there's some spice that happens there.
Yeah.
But they're fine with it. They let us film there and everything.
that's awesome.
So we love to do that, play with that. And since these guys play for a made-up team called the Sacramento Condors, I'm able to pull some of Northern California into it. They train
Yeah.
in Tahoe, and all those places are real. We made up a vineyard because they have a little fun in the vineyard, and
Yeah.
somebody read it and asked me, I want to go to this vineyard.
Yeah, it's
I'm
like, where is this?
It's totally made up. So,
I love that. No, I was just about to say, you lead into everything so well. You cite several locations around Austin, Northern California, and San Antonio
Yes.
that are real and you can visit. What are some of your favorite spots that you would recommend locals or visitors?
well, I think when you go to Austin, because it's exploded so much,
Yeah.
if you can try to go like to Chewy's on Barton Springs, that's the original Chewy's, and look up their history, because it used to be an old barbecue place. And when they started Chewy's, they didn't have any money. That's why the decor is so like random, right?
Yeah.
But that really resonated with Austin people, and when they started it, they had to have an outhouse out, you know what I mean? Be
Yeah.
like a porta potty, because they need to have bathrooms
Yeah.
for the guys. The women's was in a closet, but Chewy's, Hula Hut, the Driscoll. I mean, the Driscoll is iconic, Texas, and I do really love the Hotel Emma, and I have some spicy scenes there, and they have a library in their foyer that is amazing. You walk into it, and it's a 2-story library. And so I have a scene that happens there in book 5 where she drops this random woman who ends up becoming very involved, drops a book on the character's head, and he has dyslexia, and he's like, F books, they're always getting me.
They hate me.
Yes, what's happening to me? So anyway, I just love to, there's so many spots in Austin. Barton Springs is in it. So, if anybody reads it, and we also, on my website, amarinylix.com, you can go to hotspots in Austin and see all the spots.
Yes.
So,
I know. I was like trolling on your website and to prepare for the interview, and I saw like all the stuff, and I was like, road trip now loading.
Yes.
It's time for me to go back.
Well, when you do, let us know, because there's even more spots that I'm
Yeah.
just in love with.
I love Austin. I went on a solo road trip this past September to go see a concert. But I went alone. So I went down there and I had no idea what to do. And honestly, sometimes that's the best way to do it. Because
Yeah.
like I would just pop in to all these different bookstores, all these different restaurants, or I would go, get like a smoothie from another place. And that city is just so colorful too.
That's a great description.
It just is, like I love Dallas, I do, but it's a concrete jungle. It's a lot of skyscraper glass and gray pavement. But I went down to Austin, I was like, this city feels Technicolor, and it's just so wonderful. So I love that environment gets to be like this, one of the main settings of your books.
And Jake's family is from Austin, like generations. So he tells old stories about the Driscoll and how it was haunted by ghosts, and he talks about remembering that when he was 8 years old, and
Yeah.
just I love to pull the history of a place into it because. Under my real name, I'm a pediatric occupational therapist and I write books on sensory.
Yeah.
So when you mentioned the sensory experience, I thought, that's so important for the reader, right? And I just like the feelings of places. And I love what you just said.
Yeah.
It's Technicolor.
It is like my family grew up in Houston. And like Houston's fun, but like it doesn't call to me the way that Austin does.
Yeah.
And I've only visited there like maybe 2 or 3 times in my entire life. And it's just one of those places that I just personally feel is so remarkable. But anyways, again, you're so good at leading into the next question. It's hilarious. I don't even have to come up with any kind of like segue.
We could just do this all night
Oh,
long.
yeah.
We'll have to have some ranch water.
We have good, yes, get some ranch waters and just banter the night away. So outside of authoring, like you said, you've been a pediatric occupational therapist for over 30 years. What's it like balancing your 2 careers, and do your 2 passions ever coincide with each other in a cool way?
Yeah, that's a great question. Tomorrow I'm moderating a panel on neurodiversity in romance. So to me, that's, the holy grail to pull together my passion of working with children with disabilities and understanding what early trauma does to us as adults and especially how it impacts us in relationships.
Yeah.
And then romance, right? I didn't intend to write romance. I just started this series and I had always written fiction, but I put that on the back shelf literally to raise 2 kids and run a therapy business for years and years. And my husband will tell you that I didn't have an original story. It was gone from my brain for about 20 years because my brain became very transactional. Because I can tend to be all over the place, and that's just not good for kids. They need to know you're going to pick them up from practice and that kind of stuff. And when you run a business. So now it's a creative process for me to allow those 2 careers to kind of come together. And like I said, in book 5, the main character has dyslexia, plays for the NFL. He's hidden that. So I also get to pull in the fact that he was raised in rural Missouri and may not have had the supports, but he could play football, so he just got passed on. So it's kind of talking about the social environments that people are from too, but also, using that neurodiversity and just making it sort of normal because a lot of people have things that they deal with that we don't know, right? So I don't know if that answered your question.
No, it definitely
I'm
does.
also good at rambling.
Girl, same. I'm building a whole platform off of just talking off the cuff, so I don't blame you.
I love this.
So when it comes to neurodiversity, behavior, sensory processing, and mental health, what is something that the average person might not know that may be really vital to their well-being? What's something that we might take for granted or pass up that you as a therapist and somebody in your field, like, hey, you got to pay attention to this. You got to really focus on this and prioritize it.
Right. Well, I would say if I was going to narrow it down to one thing that is something we all utilize for anxiety and stress, and people with autism have a harder time with this, is self-talk. And we utilize it, but it also can be very detrimental. So we have to think about our self-talk. I was going to this signing a week ago and out in the middle of nowhere, California, I'm like, oh my gosh, saying to my husband, oh my gosh, how is this going to be? Even though I've spoken in almost 300 locations, where I do continuing education, 6.5 hours, I still get that anxiety. I'm like, what if they're not going to like me? And he's like, yeah, it's going to be shitty like all the other ones you've done. He's like, stop. But we all do that. But it's also a strategy when you're working with people that are on the spectrum, because having them write it down or create their own picture books. I do this with young kids. Picture yourself at a party. Picture people smiling at you. Picture someone frowning at you. What are you going to say to yourself? How are you going to take a social break? Are you going to go to the bathroom? All things we learn to do as adults. A lot of times you're at a party and it's loud and stuff. The reason you go to the bathroom is not that you need to go to the bathroom 5 times that night. It's to kind of go,
yeah, to decompress a little.
So I think that's something that we should just talk about openly, the strategies we use to get through situations that seem stressful. And for a lot of people, that's social.
Yeah.
So, and it's not something we talk about it. We always act like things that are social are fun. Well, I wouldn't choose ever to go to a 6-year-old birthday party. I mean, I didn't like to go to them when I had them for my own children. So can you imagine a child that is overwhelmed by their sensory world?
Yeah.
That's the last place they want to go, where balloons are flying. So it's that kind of what's going on in their think bubble. I always say think bubble, talk bubble. And to get kids to tie into that, but it's also something to get adults to tie into. Like this guy, he's think bubble becomes his talk bubble all the time, the quarterback. And the woman that he's trying to, romance, she's like, do you have like a think bubble? I mean, you just say everything.
Do you have a filter at all?
And she's the opposite. He can't get her to say anything she feels because she's had early trauma and she doesn't want to put all that out there. So I went random again. I went rogue again.
It was perfect. No, I think it's so important, especially with a lot of listeners to this particular podcast. Like, they want to be writers, but their negative self-talk holds them back before they even take the first step. So I think that it's so important that you shared that, truly.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point that you're saying, because anytime we start something and it's completely new, so writing this series was completely new for me, and I just decided that I'm going to do this like a 6-year-old boy who just drew Superman and he thinks it's great, no matter what it looks like.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I wouldn't be able to create. I would hold myself back. And, I wrote a novel called The Red Bike in the late 90s in Austin. And Austin looked very different than it does now.
Yes, it did.
And that book sat on a shelf. It was completed, edited. I used an amazing editor out of New York. It was an incredible experience. And that sat there for 20-something years because we moved to California, adopted our daughter from China. My son was born 6 weeks later. We started a therapy business. And then when I went back to that book, when I had this idea, my husband was like, let me see if I can get all that stuff you wrote a long time ago off an old hard drive.
Yeah.
It had moved 6 times. You wouldn't even, because you're too young to recognize these with the big towers. And our kids were like, what is that?
Yeah.
He's like, that's what computers used to look like. So he got that off, and that started this journey. So
that's incredible.
And he's the one that told me, my husband, I said, I had this picture of these two on the Driscoll balcony. It was a really spicy scene. And I was telling him, I don't know why these characters are coming to me, because that hadn't happened so long. He goes, and I said, I don't know if I can write fiction again, because I had been writing nonfiction for so long and creating PowerPoints, and it's a different mental space.
It's a different headspace, yeah.
So he said, just write the scene. I think he just wanted to imagine this, that I had this picture in my head. So he's like, just write that scene on the Driscoll balcony. So I did, and that started this whole series.
Yeah.
And that's deep into book 2. And the Driscoll, again, let us film there. And we eventually rented, we stayed in that suite. You couldn't do on that balcony what I wrote.
No, I
want to advise people, because there's a apartment complex literally right there looking at you. So unless you want to get arrested, don't do that. So this is fiction, I want people to know. So
that's hilarious. This has been wonderful. For those who are watching this show in the future, we are currently at LoveLitCon in San Diego having the time of our lives. Tell our listeners where you can be found at the convention. What's your table number?
Okay.
Obviously, you mentioned that you're doing a panel on Sunday morning.
Yes.
And then where can our listeners find you online?
Okay. On Instagram, author.amari nylix. So, and you'll see a minx. That's my logo. And then I'm in table E90 in the convention hall, and you'll see all 3 of us kind of buzzing around there, and you'll see wine glasses and stuff. And then tonight, we're one of the sponsors for the party.
Oh, wonderful.
So we have a table to the side, and we have 600 wine glasses.
Wow.
So come get them, because they're plastic, and you can they're perfect hot tub glasses, and then amarinylix.com is my website, and I'm also on Amazon and in some bookstores in Texas. So you can go to Amazon, Amari Nylix for Austin Heat. If you want to look into the other books I've written under Tara Delaney, they're there as well, and they've been published by big publishers. I decided to do this as an indie author.
Honestly, both routes to publishing are so valid and they have their perks. It's been fun to like navigate both territories. So I love that you get the best of both worlds.
It's interesting just to look at what goes into it and then understand why sometimes indie publishing can be harder, but there's more control. I could have the covers I wanted and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it, you guys. Thank you so much for tuning into Talk Wordy, and my thanks again to Amari Nylix for coming on the show. This has been so much fun. Don't forget to follow the podcast on Instagram at TalkWordyPod, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, you guys.